Hello, my name is Nick Worker. I'm the marketing director here at Answering Legal, and I am here today to talk about Answering Legal's Future Attorneys of America Scholarship Award. We've been giving this scholarship away to dedicated law students since 2017, and joining me now is our newest recipient, Hannah Goldberg. Hannah is a 1L at University of Miami School of Law, and we appreciate her taking some time out of her busy law school schedule to join us today. I can't imagine that. I wouldn't go back to school if you paid me. Hannah, congratulations. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I'm just so excited for you. I love talking to like the people who win the scholarship. It's a privilege of mine that I get to do this, but thank you so much for being on.
Thank you guys for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So we want to get to know you a little bit more. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from, what life was like growing up?
Yeah,
What,
so I grew up in Lutz, Florida, which is a small town in Tampa. Growing up, my parents were always very strict when it came to academics, sports. So A's and B's were always expected of me. And when it came to sports, whenever I started a season for competitive cheerleading, I always had to finish it, no matter how much I complained, how hard it got, how bad I wanted to quit. And I feel as if the way they raised me with that, I can attribute my success to them in undergrad, since they instilled this hardworking behavior in me since I was young.
I was friends with cheerleaders growing up, and I remember being like, "Oh, cheerleading is this, cheerleading is that," because you're like an idiot in like middle school, and they were like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you lift this girl over your head," and I tried, and I could not, and everybody laughed at me, and that was a
that's so
lesson
funny.
life learned for me. Uh, but I want to talk about the essay you wrote for us because I read a lot of essays candidly every year. I'm part of the board that like reads the essays. You detailed your time as an intern at a public defender's office, which I think is such an incredible experience.
Mhm.
But you spoke about one case in particular involving a young man named Justin that seemed to have like this really huge impact on you. Can you tell us a little bit about this and like how it shaped your motivation to do what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so actually coming into the public defender's office, I applied to an investigative intern position as I was considering a career in the FBI at the time. So I saw the word investigative, so that word stuck out to me. So I submitted my application, got the internship. I actually had no interest in the legal career at the time. So during my time there, there was a huge trial going on for this boy about probably the same age as me. At the time, and he was there for a crime that he was accused of when he was under 18. He was someone who had a lot going for him, was about to face getting that all taken away because of this accusation. So he ended up getting a not guilty verdict, which I've never seen a whole office impacted by a client. Like everyone was very like tears, like everyone was clapping afterwards. Like I just you just felt it kind of run throughout your body, like all the emotions. And it really, in that moment, it emphasized the importance of representation for me and how attorneys can change someone's life for the better.
One of the things that I talk to a lot of attorneys about nowadays is access to justice.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing stories about that. We actually work. I work with a guy. His name is Joshua. He works or he runs an organization called Freedom Fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and
I think I've heard of that.
it's so cool. I won't speak on his behalf, but there was a thing a couple of years ago. He wanted to use the service that we work for. It answers the phones, and he was like, "Do you guys do any sort of like grants and this?" We were like, "No, but let's do it." And he was the first. So that's something that's near and dear to us is like access to justice. Obviously, the way that we can help in that way is like giving our service away for free, but also talking about and helping out guys like the freedom fighters.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very rewarding.
if I could pick one other thing that I could do in my life, it would be
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but as I mentioned before, I was not a good student. I was not a good student in the fact that I wasn't like obedient. I didn't go to you know what I mean. You know people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Just wasn't for me. But I
Mhm.
talk I talk to a lot of lawyers who mention that empathy is such an important skill to have when working in the legal profession.
Mhm.
Uh, would you say that's something you've become more aware of over the past few years? And I'll tell you this is a lot of the lawyers that I speak to and on the podcast that we do will say they teach you in law school not to be empathetic or empathic, and it's like a trait that's trained out of lawyers. Do you sort of see the importance of this? How do you feel about empathy? Tell me what's going on.
So I actually became very aware of this trait when I worked at the public defender's office, especially just because not just anyone can sit down with someone who is accused of doing very heinous things and giving them the time of day. And I've seen how showing a sense of empathy can create incredible results. Because most of the people who come into the system, they aren't really used to having someone who's going to show them empathy, and it will kind of, I feel as if it's an impact to help them for the better.
I feel like a lot of what I do is like the business of law. I'm in legal services.
Mhm.
Um, and this has become more apparent to me in the last few years, really, is so we have a ton of receptionists that answer the phones for law firms all over.
Mhm.
And there's been a shift in like the culture. It's really cool to see. And obviously I like that the end result is that the legal client gets more access to justice.
Mhm.
But lawyers will ask me, like, what's your empathy training like for these receptionists? And we had to start incorporating that into our messaging, that like we actually do that, but people used to just not care about it. They'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
you answer the phone, you sound good, you don't, I don't know, you don't sound like you're talking through a tin can. They just cared about that sort of quality. Now they're
Mhm.
starting to care more about, are you taking good care of my customer? What's their experience been like? And that's, to me, really important because these people are dealing with really tough issues. They're accused of heinous things, and for us
Mhm.
to not judge them and come from a place of understanding um, helps us do better work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you just said.
So I want to ask you, because this is so cool for me. I get to talk to people like you, and I feel very fortunate that I'm here having this conversation, obviously. But what are some of your goals for your career in law? Like, where do you want to go? How far do you want to go? Do you want to open up your own practice? Give me the whole, like, what's the dream?
So, the dream right now is, as a future lawyer, I don't want to be someone who just guides them through the legal system. I kind of want to add to their support system and help them get back on their feet. I will still have to obviously learn what I can and can't do as a lawyer, but I want to be able to further, once their case is done with, I want to be able to help them out more, give them a second chance. And I feel as if the best chance to do that right now is as a public defender. I consider I would want my own firm later in life, but as of right now, that's probably so many years away. So the only thing I'm thinking about right now is the public defender, especially.
I forgot that I actually have a very good friend who is a public defender. And when I first met him years ago, I had first started my job here. So I was very interested in like, what is it really like to be a public defender? You see it on TV,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't, or a lot of lawyers, I would say, don't become public defenders. But you've already had an experience sort of like interning there. What are
Mhm.
you most excited for as it pertains to becoming a public defender? Like, do you like going to trial? Do you like getting results? Like, what appeals to you about it the most?
I think the results definitely, because when I did the internship, I just did the intakes, and I just started. I did the first thing in the system, or like the first step in the process. And whereas being a lawyer, I'm there from the start to the end. So I won't be left in the dust about what happens. I'm excited to be able to watch every single movement as it goes, as it starts in the system and ends in the system, and be able to have more control over that as well.
I gotta say, I'm a little jealous because that sounds really rewarding. I
Mhm.
like to tell myself that I sleep well at night because I'm a proponent of this like access to justice and parity between like smaller law firms and
Mhm.
huge law firms, things like that. But I want to say congratulations because you've obviously been accepted to University of Miami School of Law. What's it like there? How's your time been so far? What are you doing to make the most of your law school experience? And like, what's your favorite part?
Well, first of all, thank you. It actually has been the most challenging academically thing that I've ever done. But my classmates are probably some of the nicest, funniest people I've ever met. I think the people there make it very worth um, the hardness that comes with the academics. I also, while in undergrad, I didn't really take advantage of the academic and career advisors because they didn't really make themselves as available. But the advisors here make themselves very available, very welcoming, which I've started to take advantage of just because I also am a first generation law student. So I don't have the advice of my parents to kind of give me advice on how their law school went. So they have been a great resource. U Miami also has many networking and informational events available that I've started to attend this semester to learn about the field and aid in my understanding of what a day to day basis of being a lawyer is like. For example, we had a couple weeks ago, it was called Evening with Esquires, and we got to pick what law we're interested in. And they picked about 10 people per table, and they had 3 attorneys at each table in that field. So we got to have a little dinner with them, sit down and chat. And there are people who are actually very passionate about what they're doing. So it was nice to get a very positive experience, as sometimes you'll talk to lawyers, they'll be like, I hate my job. But these people actually were very passionate about it and made me more excited about what the future to come is.
I love hearing stuff like that. And obviously, I was a bad student, so I didn't go to any of those like career resources or anything. And I always had these friends who would do things like that. And I was like, oh, that's so fake. It's this, it's that. But now that I'm like not as immature, I won't say I'm mature, I'll say I'm not as immature. I understand how valuable that could have been for somebody in that position. So I'm really
Mhm.
glad to hear that the school does a good job of doing that for you guys, and that you take advantage of it. I think that's incredible. So you recently got a chance to dip your toes into the law firm world. I want to talk about this. So you served as a receptionist at Novi Gonzalez Family Law. Would
Mhm.
you say that that was a valuable experience for you? And was there anything interesting that you learned about working in an actual law firm? I know that being like in the public defender's office is different, but you were actually at like a private law firm.
hmm So I actually loved my experience working for a small family law firm. Since it was small, I was able to build meaningful relationships with everyone in the office because at the public defenders, it was a little more hard because there were just the caseload that comes in. Everyone's always so busy. Whereas I feel like in a smaller firm, you have the time to be able to actually get to know each other. And it was fun to go from criminal to family law just to learn about different fields inside the legal realm. And I really appreciated my experience there.
It's I'm getting jealous hearing about this because not that I don't love my job. I do love my job, but I'm a guy, I like to do new things. I like to try new things, and I have
Mhm.
so many friends who are lawyers, and then I talk to so many lawyers, and they tell me like I have a friend who works at this big corporate firm, and he worked on a pro bono case involving some crazy international crime, and I was like, that is so cool, and he couldn't tell me all about it obviously until it was over. But
Mhm.
I'm just excited for you. I think that this is so much fun. Um, I'm gonna let you go after this, so I want to thank you so much for your time today. We're excited to follow your career in law. If you're a law student watching this and you want to apply for our Future Attorneys of America Scholarship and be like my new friend Hannah, we'll leave a link below where you can go to learn more. Hannah, if you have anything else you want to say,
Um, I will say law school, it's hard, but I know it's going to be rewarding. And I feel as if you're considering law school, definitely or do your research, make sure it's what you really want to do, and it'll be worth it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.